I was lucky enough to watch Oleksandr Usyk vs Daniel Dubois live at Wembley a little over a week ago now. I said it was like watching Messi play football, albeit more brutal, just with the way Usyk floats around the ring, more like a welterweight than a heavyweight. But Usyk was also spiteful with his counters, walking Dubois onto almost the exact same punch 3 to 4 times, the shot Usyk dubbed Ivan. Making use of his trademark pendulum footwork, Usyk would step back, just out of range as Dubois overreached, before making full use of body mechanics, launching the rear hand over the top with scary accuracy. Dubois went about it in the right way, looking to walk Usyk down, but Usyk never stuck to the ropes for long. And of course being aggressive comes with danger, as Dubois found out as the fight ended in the 5th. It was a great atmosphere in the stadium, with more Usyk fans than Dubois fans. The Ukrainian people were a pleasure to be around, and really friendly. Usyk was already undoubtedly the best of his era, and he has to now be in the conversation for the best boxer ever, not just at heavyweight, but in any division, pound for pound. In terms of what's next, Usyk has said that he has one more fight left in professional boxing. The WBO have ordered Joseph Parker as their mandatory challenger, and I think that would be perfect. Parker has more than earned his shot, and in a strange way I think it does more for Usyk's legacy than a trilogy with Tyson Fury, in terms of taking on every worthy challenger. I understand the third fight with Fury as it's massive financially, but in the spirit of fairness it should be Parker's time now. Last weekend we also saw the return of the legendary Manny Pacquiao, at 46 years old, fight for the WBC welterweight title against Mario Barrios. I was worried for Manny going in, but he proved so many wrong as he pushed Barrios to the limit. Of course it was nothing like prime Manny, but there were still many occasions where he landed really sharp combinations. Although Barrios did retain his title after the draw, Pacquiao did himself extremely proud. So with two legendary fighters competing on the same weekend, it begs the question, what separates an all-time great from a generational talent? For me, there are 3 key elements to consider. The first of which is going into the Lion's Den, fighting away from home as a true world champion should. Manny Pacquiao of course came up fighting in the Philippines, before taking the leap to the United States on very short notice to stop the highly rated Lelo Laduaba. Of course the States then became Manny's second home, but Manny would still go on to have fights in Australia, China and Malaysia. Oleksandr Usyk is the ultimate road warrior, having won the Olympic Games at London 2012, the Muhammad Ali Trophy and undisputed cruiserweight crown in Moscow, and of course heading straight to the Lion's Den to defeat Anthony Joshua in London. This is all without mentioning defeating Glowacki in Poland, Hunter in America, Huck in Germany, Bradis in Latvia, Tony Bellew in the UK, Derek Chisora in the UK and Daniel Dubois in the UK, let alone his 3 fights in neutral territory in Saudi Arabia against the 2 next best in his heavyweight era. Of course you can't talk about greatness without mentioning Muhammad Ali, and similarly to Usyk, he was a true road warrior. Like Usyk, Ali won Olympic gold and he did so in Rome in 1960. Ali would take on Henry Cooper twice in London, as well as Brian London during his early pro career. When he was banned from fighting in America, he also fought Karl Mildenberger in Germany. In 1971 he faced Jürgen Blin in Switzerland, fought Mac Foster in 1972 in Tokyo, Alvin Lewis at Croke Park in Dublin. In 1973 he faced Rudy Lubert in Poland, before famously travelling to Zaire for the Rumble in the Jungle vs George Foreman the following year. And of course the Thriller in Manila vs Joe Frazier in 1975. The next key factor is willingness to go against the odds and be the underdog. No one epitomises this like Muhammad Ali. Many thought he could literally be killed against Sonny Liston in 1964 as a young 22-year-old, but Cassius Clay, as he was known at the time, would shock the world as Liston quit on his stall at the end of the 6th round.
I saw Sonny Liston a few days ago, Jack. Ain't he ugly? He's too ugly to be the world champ. The world champ should be pretty like me. Well, he told me to bet my life that you wouldn't go 3 rounds. Well, if you want to lose your money, then bet on Sunday.
10 years later, Ali may have been an even bigger underdog against the undefeated monster George Foreman. On this occasion he used his toughness and experience, rather than youth and athleticism, to out-strategize Foreman with a rope-a-dope and reclaim his crown, a decade after first winning it. Of course, Oleksandr Usyk is no stranger to being an underdog. Very, very few outside of Ukraine made him a favourite on away turf against the unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua in 2021. Usyk was at a huge size disadvantage but put on a boxing masterclass to take Joshua's titles. He was at an even bigger size disadvantage versus Tyson Fury, but again defied common logic in back-to-back David vs Goliath efforts. Even against Dubois, when his age was beginning to be brought into question, Usyk looked better than ever. Manny Pacquiao was the ultimate underdog at many stages throughout his career, as he would go on to be an 8-division world champion. All the way back to his short-notice US debut in 2001, as previously mentioned against Lelo Ledwaba, stunning the crowd with a TKO win in 6. In 2003, he would defeat the legendary Marco Antonio Barrera. Despite being knocked down in the first round, Pacquiao would come back to put Barrera down in the third and finish the job in round 11. Again, he was the underdog against the much larger Oscar De La Hoya in 2008, but Manny was simply too fast and dominated from start to finish, which came in round 8. Manny's greatest night arguably came against Antonio Margarito. Margarito stood at 5 foot 11 inches and weighed 150 pounds compared to Pacquiao at 5 foot 5.5 inches and 144.5 pounds. The fight took place for the vacant WBC super welterweight title and would become Pacquiao's magnum opus, tattooing Margarito from round 1 to round 12, despite the huge physical disadvantage. It was a legendary performance. Finally, the last key factor is conduct outside of the ring. It may sound silly, but boxing more than any other sport is about a man or woman's spirit and what they fight for. Pacquiao, Usyk and Ali embody this more than any other. Pacquiao's family was so poor that he had to drop out of school at 14 and move to Manila in the hopes of making money, which he eventually managed to do through boxing. Pacquiao is stated to have donated over a third of his career earnings to his home nation of the Philippines, on student scholarships, farming equipment, churches, hospitals, housing and disaster relief, and has become a major figurehead in the fight versus human trafficking in the Philippines. Oleksandr Usyk inspires Ukraine to keep fighting every time he does the same. When war broke out in February 2022, Usyk returned to fight, as did Vasily Lomachenko and the Klitschko brothers. He was convinced to return to boxing in order to inspire his nation. He says, "I'm not boxing for the belt now, I'm boxing for everyone who is defending our country, and the memory of those warriors who are no longer with us." Muhammad Ali was willing to risk death to stand up for his beliefs. In the eyes of white America, he became public enemy number 1. His title was taken, his career, his financial security, all because he refused to fight in the Vietnam War based off his religious beliefs. He faced prison time and a genuine prospect of assassination, as was the case with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And yet he stood tall and stood up to the government, and he won. That is greatness. Pacquiao, Usyk and Ali, and the people they are. Not perfect people, but great people. That's what separates you from a great boxer, being a great person.